Did Kashf come or no? No Ilham? Kashf?
Actually, I didn't even think about it. SubhanAllah. But that's an interesting question.
كنت خاشعا ما شاء الله.
Astaghfirullah.
Yes.
The reasoning on the, you give example of the alcohol, which can be
Yeah.
but for the riba, it's not.
No, you don't. There's strong indications, and Allahu Alam, I do believe that's actually the reasoning.
How do you determine the reasoning? Because
It's specifically stated. Yeah, when it's specifically mentioned or once it's stated.
From the context, you
Yes.
figure out that the reasoning is not.
No. It says like شو الآية?
On the bid'ah, you said, was it more of a, well, on the alcohol was specifically prohibited, and
You want to be Hanafi, huh?
What do you mean?
You know what I mean.
What do you mean? Like in prayer?
Yeah?
In prayer, you mean?
That's today.
Oh,
Did you show up for
that.
class?
Oh.
Yeah. 2 class, she skipped.
I was so tired. My brain wasn't working. I had to give myself a break.
And then your Hanafi Sheikh came, so now it's just working.
He's not even Hanafi.
She was praying like this.
How do you know that?
Yeah, it's like typical madrasa, bro. That's that madrasa education right there. And you gotta cross the feet like this.
I don't cross my feet like that.
I'll guide you. Did anyone have any kashf? Ilham? Huh? Everyone had khushu'? Everyone was focused in their prayer? Allahu Akbar. That's what I'm talking about. You forgot to. you were so focused in the prayer. MashaAllah. Allah Mubarak. So the question is that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he mentions all of these deeds, and from them he says that accusing chaste women. So why women specifically?
When you ruin a woman's reputation, ruin her.
Sure. Why? No, I'm just curious. Like, why is that? You know what I mean? Like, why? How come the same thing doesn't happen with men?
I don't know.
No, I mean there are double standards in a lot of things, right? So Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has made men physically stronger, right? He's made women more emotionally patient, right? I think if men had the option to if men could carry babies, there'd be a lot more abortions, right? Like there's different types of there's strengths and weaknesses in both genders, but the question here applies to this. Even ideas around sex and sexuality, I think like the Quran and Sunnah, they very much address them. And so what role does that play here? What? Okay, I think you're touching on a very important point. So what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. No, I think you're onto something. So when Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He says, وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَبْغُضْ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ, right? وَيَحْفَظُوا فُرُوجَهُم. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, He orders men, when He's talking about protecting their privacy, He gives them one order. He tells them what? He says, lower your gaze. But when He talks to women, He says what? يَبْغُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنْ وَلَا تُبْدِينَ مَا زِينَتْهُمْ. Right? So He tells them two things. He says, yeah, you lower your gaze too, but also don't show your beauty. Right? Or don't adorn yourself.
Oh, so because women have a whole woman as an algorithm, it's kind of not men's fault.
I'm sorry? Say that again? I didn't hear.
Yeah, I said so since a whole woman is the algorithm, it's not men's fault.
It's less of an aura issue.
What do you say?
It's less of an aura issue. But it's more, okay, طيب, why did Allah order women to cover up more than men? Like how come You don't have that same order for men, like that. Hey, don't adorn yourselves. How come Allah didn't say, hey men, lower your gaze and don't adorn yourselves? There's no parallel order.
Because
Oh,
Because men aren't beautiful?
huh?
I'm just kidding. You
I
guys.
I can't disagree with that, but like, not to me anyway. But like, but I think like all of these perceptions, they're real, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is addressing them in a very real way, and the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is addressing them in a very real way.
For us,
Yeah.
attraction to women
Uh-huh.
can be very physical,
Okay.
whereas for women it's more emotional.
Okay.
Than
Tayyib.
physical.
Mashi.
So
Oh, well, here, let's even be more basal or carnal. The drive that either gender has, which gender is more sexually driven?
I mean,
Men. So if men are more sexually driven, what does that make women?
so they have a power
So he's giving them a power over what?
over men's sexual desire.
He's essentially, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has essentially given them power over sex. Yes? Meaning that which gender is constantly going to be chasing the other?
Men is just
Men. Right? So because males are constantly chasing women, women how now have become gatekeepers to what? To sex. Right? They're the gatekeepers. And if they're the gatekeepers,
they're in control.
they're in control. And saying that if by accusing a woman, what are you accusing her of?
But she misused that control.
Right? Or she doesn't have control, making her very much like a man. Because men, they're not expected to be what? They're not expected to be gatekeepers. I'm only sharing this statistic because I want to give an example. That men are not gatekeepers because homosexual men, what is the average number of partners that they have in their lives? So 14 to 16 is the average, right? And then you have like on the higher mean, it's like 47 or something. Why? Because they are not essentially gatekeepers. But in heterosexual couples, the number of partners is significantly less. And again, because of that level of control. So the moment that you say that this woman is unchaste, you are now accusing her ability to control. And men are not expected to have that level of control. Even when you talk about the Hur Ain. Hur Ain are for who? Like here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes all these things in paradise, right? He says there's Hur Ain, you're going to have a lot of land, you'll have these castles, there are rivers, and there are bracelets, and there are like silk clothing, and you have all these servants. How much do men care about all this other stuff? Not that much, right? It's nice, right? You know, it's nice, but most men, if you speak to them, what is the major thing that drives them to paradise? And why? Because men they're sexually driven. Another example of this. When this happens more with men than it does with women. A man will have a stable family. He will be at the peak of his career. And many times he will destroy all of that with one encounter.
True. That's true.
Right? He has everything, right? He has all those things. And he will destroy it with one encounter. Statistically, this happens much, much less with women.
Why do men do that?
Because they're sexually driven. That's why. No, and I'm saying there's a very base difference between men and women. Like what are the things that drive both genders, right? And there are different things that will drive them. Why is that important? Because it allows them to determine and set their own rails and guidelines. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا, He says, don't go near zina. Why does He say that? Because the moment you start moving in that direction, He's saying, men, the moment you start moving in this direction, what happens?
You fall into it.
All right. Right? It's easy for you to fall into it. And you will find, even with behaviors, is it easier to change the mentality or create barriers? To create barriers. And how do you create barriers? By surrounding yourself with good company, right? You know, by making sure that you have a steady and you have a regiment, you have hobbies, you're keeping yourself busy, right? Why do we do all those things? They're to distract us from falling into bad behaviors. But just having a mentality, if I am constantly around liquor, what are the chances of me actually drinking it? Right? They go up significantly. There's a study done, and it wasn't really a study. It was just a survey that they had done. So in Vietnam, do you guys know what the heroin usage percentage was amongst soldiers? It was like above 50%. Like 1 in 2 people was doing heroin in Vietnam. And you guys know what that percentage was when they came back to the U.S.? It was like 5. Why? It was the surroundings, right? So this shows the power of social pressure and being in bad environments and what that has to us. But like I said, in these situations, or why he sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointed to women, or why is it in society that women are why are they held to the standard of chastity, is because they are the keepers of chastity, right? They are the gatekeepers to that. This is not something that men inherently value. This is something that women value. And it is something that is deserving of it. Otherwise, society wouldn't give that to them. And is it inherently wrong? No, I don't think it's inherently wrong. Should we have double standards? No, right? If men do it, it's wrong. If women do it, it's wrong as well. But the problem here is who is accusing? Men are accusing. And this is a very easy way to put people in doubt now about this woman. Because defending yourself from such an accusation is very difficult, right? It's very challenging. So, and there are other things that people can accuse each other of, but this is one thing that is actually very challenging. It's very difficult to come away from. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and protect our daughters. I mean, yeah. 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 Here, let me put it another way. If you put a piece of meat in front of a lion, what's going to happen to that meat? Right. Is it important, saying that, just being very clear, saying that, is there a level of control that is expected? Yes, absolutely. Right, and there's no justification, right? This does not justify raping. This does not justify catcalling. This does not justify putting anyone in an uncomfortable position, right? That's not what the purpose here. But if you put this person in an environment where he has access to those things, the chances of him falling into them, they go up significantly. So what should men do? They should make the best and try to remove themselves from such said environments. And not just that, even those situations, so if you talk about rape statistics, for example, in what situations do men tend to rape women? The vast majority of time it's because of alcohol. Vast majority of time. Why? Because even the inhibitions that man had, what happens with alcohol? Even those are removed. They become removed at that point. So, stay out. We have to learn how to stay away from bad environments. We have to learn to keep ourselves away from those places. And it's not upon us to test ourselves. It's upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to test us. I can't put myself in a bad environment and say oh well, let me see what I'm going to do. Yeah, you're not going to do. You're not going to do well. We should always try to stay away from some such places and such things. And looking at these major sins, I think it's also important to look at their opposites. Because if we look at the opposite of these major sins, that should give us an idea that these are actions that are very elevated and praiseworthy. So the first of them, shirk. So the opposite of shirk is? Iman and tawheed and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Sihr, what would the opposite of that be? Because sihr, essentially what does sihr do? What is the purpose? Why do people practice magic? Not destroy, all that, but essentially it's to destroy relationships, yes? Whether it be the relationship that this person had with an institution, whether it be with his wife, whether it be with family, the idea, many people who practice magic, the goal is to break and separate some relationships. So what is the opposite of that? Bringing relationships together. The next one, murder. What is the opposite of murder? Not murdering.
Giving life.
Right, giving life, right? Like giving life, protecting life. Like, there's so many ways to contribute. Helping people live a more meaningful life, right? These are all the ways that we can do it. Consuming the wealth of the yatim. Helping the yatim, right? And actually giving. Riba, consuming riba. Charity, giving charity. Ahsant, good. Obviously standing in the battlefield and staying there. The opposite of accusing women, what would be the opposite of that?
Marrying them and praising them.
Marrying, praising, protecting, right? So that is what the job of men is in society. But okay, we'll stop here and we'll continue next week, inshallah. Tafadhal.
I have a question on the riba point. You mentioned that in the Quran it mostly speaks to people that are like on the
Consuming side.
consuming end.
Yeah.
Like now a lot of times people are like in a position where they're not the ones choosing to consume it, but they're
Yeah.
like writing 401ks, etc.
Sure.
Are we to extrapolate that is closer to consuming it than giving it? I assume.
So I think there's a more layered conversation in some of the things that you mentioned, because some of those things might not inherently be considered riba, right? So like a 401k. A 401k is it's a financial tool. Roth IRAs, those are financial tools. Like, it's important to kind of examine the financial tool, and then you can draw a ruling based off of that. A better example might be like a person who's purchasing a TV that he knows he can't afford on a very high interest rate. Does that make sense? Right? And I think where we can talk, those group of people are the ones who make frivolous purchases, the ones who just don't care. Because their goal is the item, and they don't care how they're getting that item. And even in those situations, like, they're predatory practices. The people who are making these sales, even those people, they know that what they're doing is predatory, but they'll still do it to take advantage of others. But that person, yes, he's definitely accountable. He's accountable in a different way, right? Because he has zero inhibitions on making these purposes and engaging in this way. Does that make sense? No, that person, because you have very clear hadith. Yani the one who consumes it, the one who takes it, the one who writes it, right? Like, you have clear hadith that are very indicative of that. But like I said, who are the people that are there? The people who are choosing to be in that, versus the one who's forced to be in it, right? If I'm forced to take a loan, right? Like, I can't eat, I don't know where to go, like, nobody's helping me, and then there's this loan shark, and he's like, yeah, I'll give you money. Where else am I going to turn to? Like, my family's starving, I have no choice. Am I accountable? No. Why? Because now I'm in a point of need, right? So being in a point of need, he doesn't need to charge me riba, right? Not you, obviously. But like, he's not at a point where he must charge me riba, but he's choosing to. He's choosing to take advantage. So that would be the difference, and Allah knows best. Inshallah, we'll continue next week. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqin nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam. I don't even think we took a new hadith today.